Stephen, a couple of weeks since the season's ended, what are your reflections now looking back on the season that's been?
An overall successful one. From the second part of the season, I thought we were very, very good. Played some really good football, real pace and energy about the side, and our results, are mirrored by that. The last 5 games in the top 6, where we managed to get 9 points and remain unbeaten, was a really good achievement. And I think it alluded to the fact that the football we were playing, the standard and level we were playing at to get into the top 6 at that stage. So overall, when you reflect on it, it was a hugely successful season, and the consistency is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I was going to mention there that the quality of the play over that last period, especially the top 6, how pleasing was that aspect?
Yeah, and we're always trying to get to that stage. When you're winning games and when people are playing with confidence, that's easier. The personnel that we added and the people that started to come to form, obviously they helped that. I thought Keelan was excellent the last 6 months of the season. Ran and Decky gave us a different profile in wing-back areas, more like wingers. And we played with real pace and energy, and some of the one-touch football around the box and chances was it was very pleasing on the eye. It was really good to watch, and it's something we'll continue to do.
How pleased have you been with some of the progress that was made this season? I think there was a graphic on Sky before we played Celtic about how much has actually improved year on year.
Yeah, at the end of every season we sit down and go, what was good? What did we regress in? What did we go backwards in? And what did we go forwards in? So overall we got more points than we did in the last 2 years. We had more touches in the opposition box, with more runs into zone 2, which is crosses from narrower positions instead of right on the touchline. We had more shots on target, and we scored more goals. So lots of positives. The negatives were we conceded, especially in the first half of the season, more set plays, and overall we scored less set plays. So in the Scottish game, it's you have to be able to defend set plays, long throws, long balls, and you also have to score them at the other end, and that's something we need to be better at. But certainly the statistics in the forward areas and the play going forward was big improvements, and the points tally mirrored that and reflected that.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously Keelan there. He's one of the players that's moved on following the expiry of his contract, along with Richard Taylor, Elvis Bomono, Dennis Adenin and Gallagher Lennon. Just a word on the boys that have moved on.
Yeah, that's the hard bit of management. Sometimes players move on through their own choices, and other times it's through my choice and the staff's choice. And it's difficult because the hardest bit of my job is only picking 11 players every week. We've got a group of boys, and have had over the last 3 years, who give everything. And the strength of your team is the strength of the squad, and the squad was fantastic for me. Their application and their desire and their quality, and to lose those players is a blow for us, and we wish them nothing but success. St Mirren's a club that has given many players platforms over these last few years, and they've gone on to the so-called bigger and better things, certainly bigger financial things, and as we say, they go with our best wishes, and I'm sure every fan would feel exactly the same.
Someone that will be back next season is Roland Dodowu. His loan has been made permanent. He'll be joining for the next 2 years. How pleased were you to get that one done?
I feel that towards the end of the season, everybody started to see the potential that I seen early on. We never signed the finished article. We signed a player that's got a deficiency somewhere. With Roland, he's very quick. He's very, very talented technically, both feet, and he works extra hard. So, if we could get his mind right, which we worked on in terms of his disappointment at mistakes and, reacting to disappointment, which he's got so much better at, mentally much stronger, so not everything is on the pitch all the time. And towards the end of the season, you were starting to see what a talented boy he was. Amazed that we got him, because there was a lot of competition in the end. As we have done with many players, we put them in the shop window. They seem to shine and take the platform that they're given. And then other clubs with bigger resources come in. But Roland chose to come here when he had options in our league and down south of more money. But he believes the platform, the coaching and the environment was right for him, and we're delighted to have him.
Ryan Alabiosa and Zach Hemman were obviously on loan last season. How are things progressing with them?
Yeah, both boys ongoing. We'd like to sign both. I believe that Ryan is very likely out of our league now. Again, nobody was too interested in Ryan in January. We managed to take him, a brilliant bit of recruitment by Martin Foyle again. and we boosted his confidence. He played very well. He was a difference maker for us, but unfortunately with that form, it attracts attention, and it's attracted attention from bigger clubs than ourselves. So that will be a difficult one for us to do on any kind of permanent basis. Zach, we're currently still speaking to Middlesbrough. We hope to have a decision one way or another over the next 2 weeks.
In terms of other aspects of recruitment, how are things moving in that direction? And I'd imagine you've got a firm idea in your head of what you're looking at.
Yeah, we've got, we know exactly what we need. We need another centre half. We need a right wing back to replace Ryan. We need a midfielder to replace Keelan. We need a winger stroke pace type up front as well. So that's the areas we're looking at. We're further down the line than others. The hardest bit this season and previous seasons is improving the starting 11. It's very, very difficult to get better than what we have. The cost of everything's going up. The cost of living, everything in terms of football wise, the costs have risen, stewarding, policing. So we're only getting the same player, even though we're raising our budgets every single year. And to an extent, sometimes you're getting a lesser player than what we have, because this group of boys have proved they're a top 6 group of players. And enhance that and better that starting 11 is the thing we're finding very tough. But as if anyone can do that, it'll be Martin Foyle. He will come up with players that nobody's heard of. Probably alert half the world to them after they come and sign for us. But again, we're working hard on it. The football on board are backing us as much as they can, and we'll be doing our due diligence and trying to get those players in.
Someone else that's signing a new deal is Luke Kenny, obviously a player that's come through the academy, made his Premiership debut away to St Johnstone earlier in the season. When that was announced, the chat has been that the hope is to get him out on loan and get him playing football. How important will that be for him next season?
It's very important. The unfortunate thing about a club of our size is we don't have a development squad. We have development players, but we don't have the numbers or the staff or the facilities, because we didn't have anywhere to play the games for Luke and people like Fraser Taylor and Callum Pym and Evan Mooney to get continued football. So we feel it's really important. Centre halves don't really hit their peak until they're 27, 28 statistically. So we've high hopes for Luke. We believe he's had a loan at Cliftonville that didn't particularly work out that well. He now needs to go and get football like Fraser Taylor and Callum have done, and we believe that'll benefit him. So we've already got a loan in place for him. So he signed his contract on the basis he will go straight out on loan and get that first team football. And our hope is he comes back and he becomes a first team player at St Mirren.
In terms of Fraser, Callum and Evan, like you've mentioned, how big an opportunity is this pre-season and this season going to be for them?
All 3 boys very, very talented. Fraser especially, who's went out and been really brave and got game time, had a fantastic loan. Callum the same in the second half of the season. And Evan, who's been in and around the first team for the whole season, unfortunately got injured but fully fit now again. It's a big season for the 3 of them. They'll be very much part of the squad. But again, it's up to them 3 boys to force their way into the starting 11. Everyone wants young players, including me. My history will tell you, if they're good enough, I play them. We've brought millions of pounds in at Motherwell through various players. But you look at our squad and our team, Fraser Taylor has to take Mark O'Hara's place, Killian Phillips's place. Evan Mooney has to take Mika Mandra's place, and Jonah Yunga's place, and Conor McMenamin and Roland Ledua. So it's not a given. Nobody has a divine right to play games, young, old, captain, doesn't matter who. But certainly we have high hopes for them. If they keep progressing in the manner that they do, which all 3 have got fantastic attitudes, then they'll be a big part of the squad, and it's up to them to force themselves in.
Something you mentioned there is the players that these younger players would have to dislodge. That's obviously a lot of players that are still here next season. How pleasing is it to have that core still in place? At
a club of our size, to have that base is very good. It's gives us something to build from. In previous years, at St Mirren, at Motherwell, at smaller clubs, you're working and you're signing nearly 11, 12 players at a time. So you can't get them all right. There's that many that you're bringing in. You can't replace that many players. So we've been lucky and the board have been able to give early contracts to people due to the relative success of the top 6 finishes has allowed us to get ahead of ourselves, secure contracts with people like Marcus Fraser who give a real solidity to the team. The fact that we've got Killian Phillips already in and players on another year's contract means we have a good base to start with, and it allows us to identify specific positions and areas of the team that we feel can be stronger and can be better.
Premier Sports Cup draw was made this week as well. A group with Ayr, Arbroath, Forfar and Annan. What was your thoughts on the draw?
A tough draw. It's whoever you get. It doesn't, it's early on in the season. They're all tough games. I've learned that through this cup. I've managed to get to the cup final in this competition, and we're due a cup run. Certainly, we're due a cup run. It's something I haven't done here, and it'll be tough. They're tough games. I don't like the format of the cup. I've said that before it starts, and I've said it when I got to the cup final. It's still the middle of pre-season, but it's we have to find a way to win those games and get through those games before you've got your squad fully settled or fully fit. But that's the same for the smaller clubs as well, and probably harder for the smaller clubs. So we'll be setting out to get as far as we can in the cup, and use those games as our building blocks and hopefully to progress into the latter rounds. Going
back to the academy, Stephen McGinn obviously moving on for an opportunity elsewhere. Craig McLeish is going to step up to move into that job. How important is it that funnel is there and that pathway is there for development up through the academy, and obviously wishing Stephen well in his move?
Yeah, firstly we wish Stephen well, going to Falkirk, a good opportunity for him. Obviously he's been there previously as well, but when you come to St Mirren, good people, good staff move on, and I've been lucky enough that I've surrounded myself with good staff on many occasions who are now working at big levels and working with bigger finances and resources. So Stephen's just another one of those people. Craig McLeish will come in and take his place, who's already been working with the under-18s, done a lot of the coaching in this year's progression to the semi-final, wasn't it? The semi, if I'm getting myself right. So that'll be a smooth transition, and what it does, it allows other people to come up through the academy, and it keeps a familiarity with the first team. Craig's already been in and involved and around with the first team, as was proved with Brian stepping up in the assistant manager when Dermot left. So that's the building blocks the club have got in place, that there's not a huge transition when people move on to other pastures new.
The fans have been a massive part of the journey over the last couple of years. How important are they going to be again next season?
They're huge, and you've seen the support the players got. Even away at Celtic, the celebrations when we got top 6, the Valour games, the Brand games. They were this season, weren't they? It seems that long ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. But the players have rightly earned the plaudits from the fans, and the fans have rightly earned that from us, because they've backed us. I was humbled in some of the compliments I was given in terms of the banners and all that kind of stuff. It really is humbling to see that. So we have to try and reach their expectations again. We ask for patience. We ask for them to remember, the parameters we work under, the resources that we work under. It's been huge overachievement for 3 years. That's not to say we're not trying to do the same again. We will have blips in the season, like we've done this season. We'll have periods where we need their support, and they definitely give us that. And what they know and what is a given with my team and my players is they will be doing absolutely everything to win every football match. We take it as personal as they do. Believe me, my weekend and my week's ruined when we lose, as it is the players. So, that old adage of the players don't care as much as the fans and the staff don't care as much, that doesn't happen at this football club. And I think that's why there's such a bond between the staff, the fans and the players.
Yeah, how important is it to have a club that is pulling in the same direction, and with the crowds that we've had this season, how important is it to keep that momentum going? That's
the only way you bridge the gap. We don't have an individual backer that's putting millions of pounds in. We don't have somebody that's just going to fix the problems. The way you fix it and the way you bridge the gaps between the bigger clubs and ourselves is the togetherness. The off-field staff who people only see the Saturday. They only see the 11 players on the pitch. They don't see the input to get the pitch ready. They don't see the input to get the facilities and the catering and all ready, the media ready. All that goes unnoticed. So those people certainly don't go unnoticed to myself and the players. And it's massive that the clubs stick together through the tougher times and the tougher periods, because ultimately we've proved as a group of players and staff that we do come out on top more often than not.
Stephen, thanks very much for your time.
Cheers, James.